Matt Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and R Kings Competitions. Gareth A. Davies, welcome back. Gareth, how are we, my mate?
I'm very well indeed. How are you, Matthew? Lifesaver.
Can't complain, can't complain. Had a good few days in Vegas for the final press conference, Canelo Crawford. Got to speak to them both briefly. It's building up to be a real spectacle in September. How much are you sort of looking forward to it now that we've seen them, especially in the last two press conferences? There's been a
Yeah.
little bit more spice in it.
Yeah, a bit of spice, bit of vim and vigour between the pair of them. It's got more interesting the longer they've spent time around each other. Their true competitive edge has started to come out. Terence wants to get stuck into Canelo. Canelo, as you know, responds like a game almost. If you prod the bear, he responds. If you poke the bear,
Yeah.
he responds. And I think Terence Crawford's done quite a lot of poking of him.
Mhm.
Um, Even though I think the 10-8 round, even though some people will disagree with me on this, the 10-8 round to Canelo was that pre-recorded, what's it called? That was it the Legends podcast where
When
the
he asked
great,
about the elite fighters.
yeah, yeah, where he says, who have you fought, who's elite? And he says Victor Postel and Ricky Burns. And it is true. This is the legacy fight for Terence Crawford. This is a fight like no other he's ever going to have. This is his big fight. This is his moment. This is
Mhm.
the moment to prove that he belongs in that pantheon with Sugar Ray Leonard coming up weight divisions, with Floyd Mayweather,
Mhm.
with modern greats. I mean, there's no doubt he's extraordinarily talented, but he's in against a naturally not taller man, but much bigger man who's very compact, and who can deal with bigger people. So it's a fascinating challenge
Mhm.
for him, and he's very honest about it. That's what I've liked about Terence. I'm not 100%. I'm going to give my all. He thinks 70% that he wins, but deep in his mind, in his mindset,
Mhm.
100% he believes he's going to win. I think it was a really, really fascinating week of press conferences.
So I've always, whenever anybody speaks to Terence about his world title wins and what meant the most to him, everyone always thinks it's the Spence performance or maybe even a few others, but he always goes back to Ricky Burns because that's what that meant to him. So I think he maybe, if he has a think about it, you look, he's had Israel Madrimov stepped up in weight, and Madrimov's a great fighter. I know he came up short after that, but look,
He's a
um,
very good fighter, I
he's a
think, rather than great. I wouldn't call him great. I'd say very good. But
Errol Spence. I know he had the accident, but when he came back from the accident, he beat Danny Garcia. He beat Ugas, who'd just beaten a Pacquiao. Errol
yeah,
Spence was the long reigning sort of the other king of the
he
welterweight
was the other
division.
king. I
He
agree.
was.
Yeah.
Sean Porter, yes, at the back end of his career, but Sean Porter was still a very very good fighter, a former world champion, as you know.
Oh, he
Um,
gave Porter one of the toughest fights in his career, and you hear the way Sean talks about Crawford. He believes as well. I mean, fighters often do this, but I understand his reasoning. Sean Porter believes that Crawford can do it against Canelo.
Mm. Yeah, I think that obviously if you've been in the ring with him as well, you're kind of hoping there's that mutual thing
Well,
where
you also
you'd
know what
like to
he's
see him do it.
capable of. It's not just
Yeah.
that. I think that there's that competitive edge, which is,
Hmm.
he beat me. If he beats Canelo, that sees me sit somewhere. It's an ego thing in some ways, or can be certainly construed as that. But I think, I think everyone that's been in with Terence, just I mean, you could even say Amir Khan and Kell Brook, but they were way past their best when he fought both of them.
Hmm.
Um, and the thing is about Ricky, he was a three-weight world champion, so that does was Ricky elite? I think he was world level. I mean, I'm not trying to be. I mean, Ricky is someone who I've loved in the sport, genuinely.
Uh-huh.
Um, but when we're talking about Canelo level, we're talking about a different level,
Hmm.
in my view.
When you look at the Canelo resume, then on that list, obviously he's been in with everyone.
Yeah.
Do you class Miguel Cotto as elite at that point? At that point of his career, when he fought Canelo. So when you dissect it, obviously Floyd Mayweather was the huge step up, and look, he came short. Maybe obviously they weren't happy with the weight that he had to come in out of that fight. Dimitri Bivol, elite. When you go down his resume, who were the other ones you'd go, you know what, at
Golovkin.
that point?
Golovkin.
Golovkin. Well, in the first one, there was a lot of question marks over
But
the
there's three
first one, did
losses.
you think?
If you mention all three of those, the first one was definitely a loss in my view to Golovkin. It was a very controversial fight in terms of the scoring. I thought he lost it 7-5. You could even stretch to 8-4. I thought Canelo lost it. Obviously, it was very controversial at the time. By the time he fought Golovkin, the next two times he won narrowly in the second fight, but well.
Yeah,
And by the third fight, Golovkin was old.
yeah,
But Golovkin is a major name on his resume. Mayweather picked him early. Remember,
yeah,
Mayweather did that thing of fighting him too early rather than too late, or
yeah,
too earlier than when he was at his peak because he was only 23 when Mayweather really at 36 was still at his peak. And Bivol was, as we know, he's a guy that's beaten Beterbiev, Artur Beterbiev now, and had an amazing first fight with Beterbiev, and also is a brilliant fighter like a machine. He's like a machine. He's incredible. And Canelo, look, had a very tough night against him, but we're comparing resumes here, and comparisons are odious, as Oscar Wilde used to say. All comparisons are odious,
hmm
and they are. But that's what we do in boxing. We compare who would have beaten who when. It's like
of
I've had
course.
the debate with a lot of people recently with Duke McKenzie on Saturday night on Talk Sport whether. My feeling is that Mayweather would have beaten Terence Crawford, but there's a lot of people that will argue that Crawford would have beaten Mayweather. It would have been one hell of an event and a fight. And as this is, it's so worthy. It's a fight that I hope crosses over. I think it will in America. I think it will be a very big event. I think they'll promote it in the right way, and that week of press conferences did it justice eventually, because it started off slowly. A lot of us weren't happy about them having dinner together with Turkey Al Sheikh, who became Sheikh Turkey in Dana White's eyes. He's now called Sheikh
Yeah,
Turkey, which I find very amusing but very endearing. And like you say, it grew during the week. It got better and better. I spoke to both men on the Friday in Riyadh, and enjoyed them. But at that point, they were still, they'd flown into Riyadh, they'd come in on planes, they were doing their duty. It heated up in New York, and then it got even hotter in Vegas, really.
yeah,
With I don't remember you asking a question, but it was an MMA press conference, really. Who's got the first question? Who's got the
yeah.
first question?
Do you know what? It was different, and they had the USC sort of style to it as well, obviously, because
I
it's
know,
them
because
who are
I've been
running
at
it.
those. I used to ask a question at those things and attend them, and they're very good. But
They
you do
are.
get a range of questions from a range of different types of journalists, and you got the good, the bad, and the ugly asking questions, and that's not the people. I mean, in terms of what the questions are, and some of them are bizarre. Some of them, one of the questions where a mate of mine who asked it was about the arrest of Mexicans in America, which he wasn't going to go into at the time. I've spoken to Canelo about political issues in the past, and if you've got him on it, when he fought, when he fought. Oh, I can't remember now, but I did do an interview with him about that. I can't remember who the opponent was. I want to say Mayweather, but that wasn't 13 years ago. Um,
Rocky Fielding, Miguel
no,
Cotto,
I can't.
Lara, Trout.
I think it was when Trump came in 2016. I mean, it's a good chance it was a Brit because he's fought nine of them.
Liam Smith, Khan, all in
It could have been.
2016.
It could have been one of those guys. It might have been Khan actually.
Yeah,
It might have been Khan at the opening event at the T-Mobile. What was that? 2016, maybe something
it
like that.
was. It was.
Yeah, yeah.
Want to just pivot on sort of the breaking news as I was heading back over here. Eubank-Benn
Mm.
confirmed, done. Rematch is in for September. Um, what's your thoughts on it, Gareth? I've seen the Talksport headline, but just for argument's sake, just give us your full rundown on this. I think the first time we interviewed it was almost a feeling of boxing got away with it the first time when we
I mean,
talked about the
I
ways,
wouldn't
but
say boxing got away with it because it was an extraordinary success in terms of the capture of a huge audience, a crossover into the mainstream, fight of the year in Britain so far, in my view, as well.
Yeah.
An amazing event, a massive build-up, 2.5 year hiatus during the drugs affair, the clomiphene affair, the egg smash, the fine for that, the making of the weight, the big fine for that, the drama, the press conferences, the Chris Eubank Sr. turning up, the drama on the night, the absolute carnival that it became in this amazing football stadium that Tottenham Hotspur Football Club have. The chaos of trying to get away from the place is
A
you
nightmare.
there then?
Yeah, it was a
Oh,
bloody nightmare.
I mean, I, as you know, I have my road bicycle, and I cycle there to my car several miles away. For me, it's the only way to do it. Otherwise, you're hanging around for hours. It's the only downside of that event, and it was particularly grueling leaving the event last time. It was chaotic, and I'm being honest about it. The scenes were chaotic outside. Um, I said at the time, I've written a column. I thought one and done. I believed it was enough. I thought some people use the expression they got away with it. As you say, boxing got away with it. They got away with an amazing event, if you want to put it that way. It really worked. I didn't like the fact Eubank Jr. was chronically hydrated and was in hospital for 36 hours. And he's talked about it since, and he wasn't feeling well, and he was concerned about himself. His family were concerned about him. Ben exceeded himself on the night, and his stock rose. Look at him in New York a week later, like the
Superstar.
conquering king, wanting to fight everybody, even though he'd clearly lost 7-5 or 8-4 on my card. But it was always going to be the way that if someone put the money up for it to be another big fight, and Ring Magazine have done that, one assumes through Sheikh Turkey um, that they were always going to say yes to it. The big question mark, the big sticking point is whether Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn and the Boxing Board of Control should all acquiesce and allow Chris Eubank Jr. a little bit more weight and a bit more leeway this time.
Well, surely if you're Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn, you say no because
No, well, that's what they will do.
they're not.
Unfortunately,
They're never going to go. I'll tell you what. We'll let you ease off a bit. I mean, Eddie Hearn, I think's alluded to it with. I can't remember if it was IFL earlier today, saying when he woke up on the day, he was wearing his clothes. He made the same day one fine, and his natural weight is to fight at 160. So why
yeah.
shouldn't we? But look, he went to
That's
the
what they'll do. They'll push that. They'll push the envelope on that. They'll push it to the limit. They'll look for all the advantages they can get. And all I'm saying is that I'm appealing for the accession to allow Chris Eubank Jr. A bit more weight, to even allow him 163 pounds. As we know, he struggles to boil down to 160. It cost him 375 grand, and he couldn't make it within a Cadbury's cream egg, as I always say now. That was pretty much the way it was, 26 grams or whatever it was over the limit.
It was nothing.
Which is nothing, an ounce, wasn't it? I think. So but that's the best opportunity for Conor Benn to beat him this time. I still make Eubank a marginal favourite because he's the bigger man, and he proved that he's got an incredible engine, as does Conor Benn. But they'll push the envelope again. They'll take the kid to the limit. They'll drain him. They'll suck him dry, basically. And it's a shame. I just hope nothing happens to him. Our fingers were crossed last time for that very thing. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was another 12-round grueling fight. I still, as I say, make Chris Eubank a marginal favourite, but it wouldn't surprise me if Conor Benn pulled it off the second time. And the thing for Eubank is, if it does create a big splash, and it's the week after Canelo and Crawford, if Canelo's beaten Crawford, there's a natural accession or succession for potentially Canelo fighting Eubank in the UK if it feels big enough from him, or if Hamza Shiraz becomes a star in this fight with Edgar Berlanga, it could be Canelo. Obviously, both of those guys are there in the offing for Canelo to have a fight with the 10th British fighter. And as I asked him, would he fight a 10th Brit in the UK? And he's loved to fight. He's always said he'd love to fight in the UK. Whether he will or not, I don't know. But because it doesn't work time-wise for the huge, huge, huge Mexican audience who on September the 13th will either watch it live on Netflix, I understand, or when you think his audience can be 30 million sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
or he'll be watched on ESPN Deportes, which I understand is showing that fight on a 1 hour delay to encourage people to watch it live on Netflix.
It's going to be some event, and like you say, if you get that crossover as well, if Eubank won and Canelo won, but look, we're thinking too far ahead. We need to see.
Well,
the
we're always
first.
thinking ahead because we think like the promoters. We have to, because those are the algorithms of the sport we're in. There isn't a schedule, so you have to work it out yourself. The chess pieces and where they move. That's what we do.
100%.
You know, we are jumping ahead, but these are all end game fights. Terence Crawford isn't long for the game. Canelo isn't long for our game. Tyson Fury isn't long. Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk. The times they are changing, my friend. You know.
Yeah.
And they are, and we are heralding a new generation into the sport in the next 18 months.
You just spoke on Deontay Wilder. Then, did you manage to catch his performance?
Yeah, of course I did.
What did you what did you make of it? And do you think we see him and AJ next? Do you think we see the Fury fight? It's got himself a win in the win column. Go on, you're smiling there. What do you think happens?
Well, he did exactly that. He got himself in the win column. He wasn't that impressive, but he showed there's a little bit left there. I think he did just enough to justify going into this huge commercial fight with Anthony Joshua. It doesn't need a belt. Championship of each other. Two guys at the end of their careers. Wilder's not got much left. I think he'd make a truckload of American dollars to fight Anthony Joshua. It's a fight a lot of people would watch because Anthony Joshua is still a big star, no matter what anyone says. And, you know, I don't want Anthony Joshua to wait around for Tyson Fury to get off his big gypsy backside. I don't mean that in a rude way, but,
No,
you know, he's, listen, the Gypsy King's enjoying himself, you know, and you know, I spoke to Frank Warren about that today and asked him where Tyson's at. And, you know, I was at a lunch with Frank Warren today and asked him where Tyson's at. And he said, I'm not putting any pressure on him. And no one is. I think Tyson will regret it if he doesn't fight Anthony Joshua. But, you know, the big Gypsy King, like I say, he's, in boxing terms, he's on his backside at the moment. Yeah. I know he's punching in the water in the swimming pool and he's on runs with Prince and some of the boys and you know, get up the lads and all of that stuff, but it doesn't look like he wants to come back anytime soon. He doesn't have that look or feel about him. He's busy filming the Netflix series. He's in a kilt and in a bare top and a tie. He's having a wonderful time with Paris. He's enjoying his children. He looks really happy. So move on, AJ. Go and find some fights, and one of them. Anyone that complains about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder fighting is a moron, because you know there's nothing wrong with those two getting in a ring, because we'd all watch it whether we're rubbernecking or not.
I was just about to say, your first point there, Tyson Fury looks, I would say, quite content. I know you don't always know what people are feeling, but he looks like, you know, he's enjoying it. But look, it's his fruits of his labour over how many years of hard work. So you just think, as much as I want to see the Joshua fight, if this is it, fair enough.
I first went to a fight of Tyson Fury's in 2008 on the undercard of Carl Froch and Jean Pascal. I don't want to see Carl Froch come back because I think Jake Paul would beat him right now at the age of 47. I don't want Carl coming back and putting his health on the line, even though he probably earned 10 million for fighting Jake Paul, which would probably tempt him in anyway. It'd certainly be a lot more interesting than it was Julio Cesar Chavez the other night. But look, Tyson, as I say, fought in the Nottingham Ice Rink on the undercard of Carl Froch and Jean Pascal, which was a thriller. I've followed the guy's career for 17 years. He's an extraordinary gift to our sport. He's been a wonderful story. I've had the privilege of being very close to him many times during that 17 years. Very close in very, very important moments for him as well. to the point where I've been in his dressing room 3 times before he fights, where I've been in Marbella when he's just meeting Billy Joe Saunders and Ben Davison and
Yeah,
beginning his recuperation from being a 30-stone man before those 3 wonderful fights with Deontay Wilder. I've got to know the family. It's an extraordinary story. The Fighting Furies is one of the great modern stories in boxing. So if he chooses not to, great. But as an older person, the same age as his father, John, or a little younger than John, I just think Tyson will regret it when he looks back in 20 years if he doesn't fight Anthony Joshua. And as Frank Warren said to me today when I asked him, better that he does it sooner rather than later, because the body waits for no man. And I agree with Frank. And if he's going to do it soon.
yeah, I agree. You mentioned obviously Carl Froch there just a little bit. He's commented on Deontay Wilder's return and called it a total waste of time. Now, Carl's not one to mince his words, but in terms of commercially, that fight is still mega no matter what anyone says. Carl, he's had a lot to say about Anthony Joshua as well, and about his retirement over the past few weeks as well. It's a bit of a strange one, that, because obviously I see that they both shared obviously the same journey with McCracken, and it's strange how sort of that feeling is so strong towards someone who's, he got knocked out by Daniel Dubois, but you look and go, anyone could get knocked out by Dubois like that. And what do you make of that sort of narrative surrounding
that? I'm a broken record on this. I'm not sure if we've spoken about this, but I've spoken to 4 or 5 outlets on this, Matthew, and I think Carl Froch is. I mean, I spoke to him privately. Well, not privately, but we were just chatting in Riyadh at that first press conference for Canelo and Crawford. Carl was out there, of course, and no, I completely disagree with him. And I said to him at the time, "What are you on about? Joshua can earn 70 million, 100 million for 3 fights. Why? No way is he going to walk away now when he's still got an appetite and there's still opponents out there that would sell out stadiums. Carl fought in a different time and he was saying, yeah, but I could have fought Gennady Golovkin for 8 million and I didn't because I knew my body was too old. Well, that's your problem. No one else's. You've got your faculties. You're still working. You do a great channel. It's great to see you around. You're a real character. He was an elite fighter. He fought at elite level with he wasn't an elite technician, but he was an elite. He had an elite chin and elite balls and elite power. And I just think it's just Carl taking the shtick, taking a line, and just knowing that people are going to debate it, and half the people. There's always a slither of truth in what Carl says, a strong slither of truth sliding through it, and through its blood. But I just don't agree with him, and Anthony Joshua doesn't give a monkey's what Carl Froch thinks, No. He's just giving a very strong opinion, which is not wrong, but I don't agree with him. Joshua, I don't think is going to get irreparably hurt in fights. He didn't deliver on the night with Daniel Dubois. He looked really a lot better in the second fight with Alexander Usyk. Joshua's up and down. I think he's probably got 2 more fights.
Yeah, I've got
Wilder and Fury, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I think that'll be it. I don't see anyone else out there for him, if I'm honest. But has to be them 2. Last one from me. It looks like Ryan Garcia's had a complete flip reverse again, outburst on Oscar De La Hoya. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Completely gone in on him over Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. De La Hoya's responded, but it's sad to see just when you think things are sort of going in the right direction for Ryan. I know he obviously got beat, but he was coming back, injury, and then there's this big fallout again. What do you make of it?
I know, I did see that back and forth. When I woke up this morning before heading off for this lunch, Frank Warren, I did see all those comments, and there was a back and forth from Oscar and a back from the one was calling one a bitch and the other a bitch. They do this, don't they? And I think was Garcia saying, I'm looking forward to getting out of contract or something after this next fight.
He's said all that, said he wants to beat his fighters, I believe.
We've even got Oscar saying, I think we've even got Oscar saying, give me a slap when you see me then, Berlanga, Was it to Belanga?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a
I
separate issue. Because
yeah.
Belanga has come out and I think really sort of hammered home on Oscar for whatever reason, and then Oscar's responded and said, "Well, when we see each other, let's see." So I don't know.
Whatever
It's
you,
always a bit weird. It's a bit
Matthew,
strange.
whatever you say about Oscar, and people have got a lot to say about Oscar, his clapback Tuesdays and
Oh,
Thursdays, and his panel show with Holly, they are absorbingly entertaining. I might run out of battery here, but so I'll just close this for you very quickly.
yeah,
They're absorbingly entertaining. He's the most successful former boxer as a promoter, in my view. He's absolutely phenomenal.
facts.
He's very entertaining. He's very similar to Froch. He just talks shit at people all the time and enjoys it. And just he's got ball. He's kind of crazy, Oscar. I've never been. I've known Oscar a long time, and I've never been really close to Oscar. But I enjoy his. I mean, I've obviously spoken to him dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but I really enjoy his zaniness. I get him, and I
Mm.
think he knows how to entertain. He knows how to get under people's skin, and I think Ryan has his episodes. Again, I am a huge supporter of the kid, because for all the things he may have done wrong, I think there's a great soul in there, and he's a great advert in some ways when he's fighting and when he's being open about his problems, and he's very much of the modern age.
Yeah.
A very modern young man in terms of being open with his issues and all those things. They're fascinating characters for us to discuss, write about, watch, and at the end of the day, these guys put themselves on the line. Oscar did. I mean, arguably, they're talking about, just to finish, Terence Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez being one of the biggest fights in the last century. Mayweather and Pacquiao was huge. McGregor and Mayweather was huge. But arguably, the biggest fight this century was Mayweather and De La Hoya, by the way,
Yeah, but when you
in
look at all them in
2007.
all
It
them in
broke
the
all records
records,
at the time. It was an enormous affair. They were both pretty much at the peak of their powers still, and it was extraordinary. And I thought it would go to split points decision to Mayweather. I mean, I know it's weird when you pick a controversial split points
yeah,
decision, but I picked it in the Telegraph, and I remember them ragging it out, but just had a feeling it'd be very close. It was an amazing event. 2007, that was, I think.
aye,
But yeah, it's a great time in our sport right now.
it is. It's on a
And
high.
then we've got an incredible July coming up, so let's chat every week. In fact, no, I'll see you in Turkey tomorrow.
I'll
We're
see you
both off to
tomorrow.
Istanbul, aren't we?
Istanbul, IBA, a lot of big
Go
names going
Jazza
to be there.
Dickens.
Yes,
Go
let's go,
Jazza
Jazza.
Dickens and the IBA. The IBA launching a bare knuckle arm. I'm back doing bare knuckle in Bolton with BKB at the weekend with Callum Skane, who's a brilliant Welsh fighter, fighting for the world title against Harry Gigliotti in the main event. That's in Bolton on Saturday night. But IBA are launching a bare knuckle arm
Wow. On top of the pro arm as well now, what they're
on
doing with
top
all
of the
these
pro arm.
fights.
It's interesting,
Wow.
isn't it?
Going to be an interesting pivot. Well, look, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. I will see you in Istanbul. Cheers, Gareth.